and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Yesterday, Joe Rogan did a live stream video on his Instagram page, but I want to pull up this article from RT America first because it's talking about really why he's getting so much flack, why he's getting so much heat. And we're going to play his video too, but first let's read this article from RT America. Again, don't tell Rachel Maddow, she might crap her pants. Don't tell TYT, they might foam at the mouth. So here we go. Free speech, drugs, COVID controversies, why Joe Rogan remains the world's most popular podcast. Love him or hate him, Joe Rogan is both the most popular podcaster in the world and one of the most controversial. I doubt he's most controversial, but nonetheless. But there's no doubt about his influence and his million-strong listener base, which eclipses even those of the corporate media outlets like CNN, Fox, MSNBC. With a small team and a couple of microphones and a room, the 54-year-old New Jersey native has created the Joe Rogan Experience, an audio and video podcast that is extremely listenable, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum. Broadcast exclusively on Spotify, it has fast become the most listened to podcast on the platform, having been overtaken in the #1 spot only briefly and locally a few times in 2021. Its numbers far surpass those of CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and even those of the primetime king Tucker Carlson. So, look, here's the thing. Joe Rogan's been getting a lot of heat. But I think what a lot of people tend to forget is that he built this platform from nothing. It started from nothing, and yet there's this massive wave of trying to get him canceled and removed off of Spotify, mostly from corporate media and people who are, again, all on board with censorship and denying free speech. So from humble beginnings, the son of a former cop and a product of a broken home, Rogan comes from a humble stock. But he's not one to complain or even talk much about his childhood. His family moved around the country before settling near Boston, Massachusetts, where he took up mixed martial arts. And as a teenager, because he was terrified of being a loser, his enthusiasm for Taekwondo blossomed into a career after he won the U.S. Open Championship and became an instructor. In 1999, with an interview with the Boston Herald, Rogan said he always dreamed of becoming a professional kickboxer, but he also wanted to try his hand at comedy. He took the time to practice his delivery, eventually performed a routine at an open mic night. It was a success. From there, he moved to New York City to work full-time as a comedian and later to Los Angeles, where in 1994, he landed his first TV role in the sitcom Hardball. The rest is history. I actually remember watching that show way back when I was a kid. Boy, oh boy, have times changed drastically. So, I want to talk about, again, the article goes into full detail about how he came to be, its humble origins, and how the entire show took off, and eventually how Rogan landed that deal with Spotify. And the article then concludes to where there's been this massive wave of calling Joe Rogan to be censored and silenced, but he's being smeared. We actually a while back did a commentary on how CNN was smearing Joe Rogan, giving false information about him. And for a long time, Rogan has been quiet about everything. He's been ignoring all the cancelship. But yet there's been this wave of musicians, most notably Neil Young, saying, well, I'm going to take my music off of Spotify. I find it interesting that there are artists, musicians out there that basically want to censor another content creator, but you know what? They have their opinions. They're entitled to them. I think it's only fair that we hear Joe Rogan's point of view. I want to play his video for just a few short minutes so that everyone hears what's happening.
I wanted to make a video to address some of the controversy that's been going on over the past few days. And first of all, to say thank you to everyone that sent love and support. I truly, truly appreciate it. And it's been very nice to hear from you. I wanted to make this video, first of all, because I think there's a lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do, maybe based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, a little bit about some other ones, but specifically about 2. One with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is. I had them on, and because of that, those episodes in particular, those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek. All of those theories that at one point in time were banned were openly discussed by those two men that I had on my podcast that have been accused of dangerous misinformation. I do not know if they're right. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong, but I try to correct them. Whenever I get something wrong, I try to correct it because I'm interested in telling the truth. I'm interested in finding out what the truth is. And I'm interested in having interesting conversations with people that have differing opinions. I'm not interested in only talking to people that have one perspective. That's one of the reasons why I had Sanjay Gupta on, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who I respect very much, and I really enjoyed our conversation together. He has a different opinion than those men do. I had Dr. Michael Osterholm on at the very beginning of the pandemic. He is on President Biden's COVID-19 advisory board. I had Dr. Peter Hotez on, who is a vaccine expert. I'm interested in finding out what is correct, and I'm also finding out how people come to these conclusions and what the facts are. Now, because of this controversy, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes with these controversies, but Neil Young has removed his music from the platform of Spotify, and Joni Mitchell and apparently some other people want to as well. I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I most certainly don't want that. I'm a Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan. I'll tell you a story at the end of this about that. One of the things that Spotify wants to do that I agree with is that at the beginning of these controversial podcasts, like specifically ones about COVID, is to put a disclaimer and say that you should speak with your physician and that these people and the opinions that they express are contrary to the opinions of the consensus of experts, which I think is very important. Sure, have that on there. I'm very happy with that. Also, I think if there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones. I would most certainly be open to doing that. And I would like to talk to some people that have differing opinions on those podcasts in the future. We'll see. I do all the scheduling myself, and I don't always get it right. These podcasts are very strange because they're just conversations. And oftentimes I have no idea what I'm going to talk about until I sit down and talk to people. And that's why some of my ideas are not that prepared or fleshed out, because I'm literally having them in real time. But I do my...
Okay, so I think we got to fix the audio here real quick. But nonetheless, that's... Oh, cool. All right, great. All right, sorry about that, folks. So here's the issue that we have to look at when it comes down to this video. This is as honest as it can get, as open as it can get. Joe Rogan is just basically saying, hey, look, I'm doing this show, and if there are different people with different perspectives or points of view, you can be on my show. Be a guest on my show. I'm more than happy to have different perspectives and points of view on my show. And there's no way that... Look, here's the thing. He's not excited about these artists leaving Spotify. He feels sorry about it. I think this is the most transparent video out there. And it's basically Rogan being honest with his critics and everyone that's been critical of him or calling for his censorship. The rest of the entire video, he goes into a story about his time working as a security guard for a Neil Young concert and so much more. And as a fellow content creator, I can sympathize with Joe Rogan because when we started off Hard Lens Media, we had people tell us, you shouldn't interview libertarians. You shouldn't interview socialists. You shouldn't interview people from the Green Party. Don't interview this activist group. Don't interview that activist group. We've had people come to us and tell us we should not interview certain people of different points of view or perspectives, or how we should run our show. I stand in solidarity with Joe Rogan, running his show in the way which he sees fit. And if there are people who are against his point of view or people he's had on the show, don't be a coward and write a letter to Spotify. Go out into his show or do your own show. But this whole idea of censorship, cancel, it's not the answer, because all what you're going to do is create bigger echo chambers. So for all the critics against Joe Rogan, look at that video in its full entirety. It's pretty transparent. It's as honest as it can get. And this whole idea of canceling somebody because they're popular than mainstream authoritative sources? Well, I think MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, and the rest of the corporate media have to take a good long look at themselves, because they have a long sad history of screwing up, publishing stories that are false, and never once taking responsibility for their mistakes or for their scandals. Rogan made that video to be honest with his critics and his supporters. So all this idea of censoring Rogan, I'm against it. I'm for free speech. And if you're against Joe Rogan and you want to be, or if you want to give a perspective, if you're some medical authoritative source and you want to challenge Rogan on his previous guests, then go on his show. But don't start demanding censorship. And if you're an artist, a musician, a comedian, a filmmaker, and you're on board with censorship, you're in the wrong field of work. Because throughout the entire history of humanity, there have been those who've been trying to censor art, censor free thinking, censoring free speech. We need to protect it now more than ever. And Rogan did the right thing by making that video. And for all those that have been against him or trying to censor him, either you do your own show, or maybe go on his show and share your point of view and perspective. Otherwise, the whole idea of censorship and cancel culture is a big waste of time. And that's a fact.